everyone, so I thought it'd be fun to start a story time series here on the channel. So I'm going to do story time. I think I'm going to do them every Saturday, but we'll see how it goes. And I thought, what better story to start out with than how did I get started sewing in the first place. So when people ask me when did I start sewing, I will often tell them high school. I kind of did a couple projects back in middle school, elementary school. I can remember doing a t-shirt quote back in elementary school, but for the most part I say high school because that's really when I started sewing and I was wearing what I was sewing on a regular basis. At that point, 95% of my wardrobe were dresses that I had made and I was wearing to school and around town and whatever. And so that's what I tell them. And why did I start getting into sewing? Well, when it came to high school, I am 5'6". I was 5'6" as of the 7th grade, but I was really thin, and I was very, very thin. I was healthy, all that sort of stuff. Didn't have any disorders, but I was very active into ballet. I was just burning, and I have genetics of being, there's lots of thin people behind me. So there's the genetics that play a role, but I was also just burning a ton of calories into ballet. And I was like 5'6" and like 90 pounds, 95 pounds. So I couldn't find anything in the stores that were proportional to my body. That's how I started sewing. And once I started, it was like, well, I love this. I get to pick out, well, first off, things fit. I get to pick out exactly what I want to make, all these different patterns, all these different fabrics and embellishments and all the rest of it, and it was just so much fun, and I gobbled it up. And if I saw a pattern, like this is back when I was shopping at Joann's, and if I saw a pattern, and I didn't let it stop me, like if it was at Advanced or if it said Vintage Vogue or any of that stuff. If I saw and I wanted to make it, I was going to try to make it. And those are the years I really feel like I gained my foundation on how garments, I gained the thinking of it, like I wasn't by any means an expert. I was there with my seam ripper in hand and ripping up seams as much as I was sewing them, but that's really what was like, how they go together, the thinking behind it, the sort of like, if I do this first, then that will make that, and it's cool. It's kind of like a little game of chess, you kind of have to think a couple steps ahead, and it exposed me to all of that thinking, and I sort of have a bad habit even for today that I don't really read directions. I think of directions as suggestions, okay? There is nothing wrong with reading directions. I will read them from time to time, but I take them as suggestions on, there's a multitude of ways to put together a garment, and these are just suggesting you on how the creator of the pattern thinks it should go together. And that is that. And I got that thinking from those years in high school of going this way and that way and doing this without directions and trying this and trying that. And there's nothing wrong with trying, and there's nothing wrong with getting to a result that you're not happy with, but you learned a ton. That learning a ton is way worth your time and energy and all that sort of stuff. At least that's how I feel about it. So then fast forward to college. Well, at my senior year of high school, okay, so by senior year I kind of had deviated a little bit from ballet, and I was a little bit more trying to get focused for college because I, like every other millennial, was told you must go to college. And at that point I did not want to go to college, but I was heavily into math. I dual enrolled my senior year of high school and did Calc 2 and 3 at the junior college. I was also tutoring in AP Calc, and I thought, well, if anything, majoring in math and teaching math would be kind of fun, but I was told not to do that. So literally I'm on the UCF website kind of like, crap, I need to go to college because I've told I have to do that. I told I can't major in math. So let's go to engineering because I'm not good at other stuff, right? Like I'm not good at reading and, writing and all that sort of stuff. So let's go to engineering. And eeny, meeny, miny, mo, aerospace sounds fun. That's literally was the process. And I was aerospace through like the end of my third year, through that junior year. And then I switched to mechanical, and that's kind of when everything with the economy back in like, this was like 2009, 2010. something like that. And the economy, I mean, NASA was laying people off and yada, yada, yada. So I switched to mechanical thinking that would give me more job opportunities. Funny enough, I've never worked as an engineer, but I did continue sewing. Getting back to sewing, I did continue sewing all through college, making a ton of dresses as much as I could. I didn't have a sewing machine my freshman year of college because I was just like in a dorm, just whatever, but I brought one up. I moved off campus my sophomore year, and I brought one up with me after that. And continued to sew, continued to learn. Then, at the end of my beginning of my junior year and summer of junior year, I got an internship with Siemens, and my boss there was wonderful. And she knew that I sewed. She was like, hey, there's this sewing studio in Orlando. I think it's actually outside of Orlando, if I remember correctly. And they have this, she sent me this, gave me this flyer of a Saga Guild. Never had heard of a Saga Guild. Never had heard of heirloom sewing. And went there, long story short, went there, loved everything. The ladies sort of just took me under their wing, and they were thrilled to have somebody, you know, young and whatever, and enthusiastic with sewing. And I was thrilled that they wanted me there, so it was great. And I am friends with them, and I'll see them at conferences and you know, fabric sales and whatever, and it's great catching up with them. So that was my first like experience into heirloom sewing, is through Saga when I was like still a junior in college. Absolutely fell in love with it and started making baby stuff. I mean, I was dating Charlie at the time. We had no, I mean, we weren't engaged. We had no, like, there were no babies on the horizon, anything like that. But I just like, I gobbled it up. I loved all the techniques. I loved learning all of it. I just dove deeper and deeper into it. Funny enough, I have this there's been people in my family, women in my family, who have been doing heirloom sewing for many generations, and I just didn't know about it. And so I kept going deeper and deeper into it. You know, Charlie and I get married. I graduate from college, and here's the kicker, right? Because I was told not to major in math. Graduate from college, economy is still tanked. Most of the people who had graduated within like a year of me, they moved to find an engineering job. Well, I didn't feel like I was able to move because at that point I was engaged with Charlie, and he's a couple years older than I am. He had a job at Lockheed that he was still enjoying at the time. And I was like, well, I'm here in Orlando. I got to find something here. There was nothing. So what happened? I started teaching math at the junior college. They had an opening, but I was only able to teach, I was only, quote, qualified to teach up to pre-algebra because I didn't major in math. Do we like see the irony of it all, right? So that was a little bit frustrating. But it was a great learning experience on just how to teach, because I had taught, like, you know, not taught, I had tutored some AP Calc, I had tutored some other math up until that point, but you know, if you're talking to a tutoring AP Calc, that person, they can speak math, right? They need help with making a couple connections or whatever, but they can speak math. You go to engineering school, everyone there can speak math. So this was the first time that I was around people and teaching people math that didn't really speak math. You know, this is somebody who was at the junior college doing pre-algebra, which, I mean, it's nothing against, you know, nothing, I'm not trying to say anything bad about anyone. We all have our own journeys and our own struggles and strengths and weaknesses and all that sort of stuff. But this is somebody who was kind of weak in math, right? This pre-algebra, that's like 6th, 7th grade. So it was a really eye-opening experience on how to break down these concepts and how to teach somebody. And I got told a number of times of, like, you know, light bulbs clicking and, like, you know, just breaking it down in a different way than it was ever broken down to that individual. I got told that a couple times, and it was so rewarding, and I absolutely loved it. Like, when we moved from Orlando to Savannah, because Lockheed was no longer working out, it was like, oh man, I missed that job because I really did enjoy teaching people and seeing the light bulb moments, and Anywho, so then we moved to Savannah because, like I said, Lockheed was no longer working out, and I still did the heirloom sewing. So at that point, we were, well, at first we moved into this little rental because we still had our dogs at the time, and we had to find a rental that would accept the dogs. So we were in this tiny little rental. If you're familiar with the Savannah area, it was Whitmarsh Island, I think that's what it's called. And we were in this tiny little rental, and we were there for maybe 6 months, maybe a year before we bought the property. When I say that we lived in Savannah, we lived in the outskirts of Savannah. We had about 12 acres, and we did a number of things. This is before the kiddos came along. We built like a 2,000 square foot metal Kwanzaa hut sort of shop thing. That was a endeavor, a big learning experience. We did a number of renovation projects. I got a sewing room again because I didn't have enough space in the rental for a sewing room. So that was a little bit cumbersome. Cumbersome is a bad word. That was a little bit not ideal for me not to have a sewing room. So I definitely liked that, and then I joined the Saga group, met those wonderful ladies, still am some dear friends with some of them, and miss them because now we moved from Savannah. So Audrey was born when we were still living in the Savannah area, and then we Lockheed, back when we were in Orlando, stopped working for Charlie, and we moved to Savannah for Mitsubishi, and then just the corporate thing. We had Audrey. We had Audrey. So when you become a parent, your what's the word? Perspective. Priorities. That's the word I'm looking for. Your priorities changed a little bit, and not to say that Mitsubishi was a dream before she was born, because it wasn't. They weren't. But definitely after she was born, it was like, why are we doing this? Why are we devoting our lives to this corporate thing that really doesn't repay you? There's definitely a cap to what you could make. They don't respect you as a person. Charlie wanted a few weeks off after Audrey was born, and they looked at him like he had 3 heads. Like, you didn't just birth this baby. Why do you want to stay home? And it was like, you're missing the whole thing. Family is important. This time's important. So he took that thing. I'm missing the term of it. Clinton. It was like back in the 90s. Clinton put it into action. It's the thing where that it's unpaid protection if you have a child, or you adopted a child or whatever, and you can take up to, I'm trying to remember the rules. It's a program, but we enacted that so that he could be home with her because they weren't giving him any time off, and it was very frustrating. So it was unpaid time so he could spend time with Audrey as a newborn, and it opened our thoughts to this, what are we doing, And at that point, we had already a little bit actually started thinking about that, but that really sealed the deal for us because we had started thinking about, corporate life. Like I said, Mitsubishi was not that pleasant anyways. We had moved up for them, so then we were tied to 2 years because they paid for our moving expenses. So if we didn't want to reimburse that, which was a pretty penny, and we were like, well, we don't want to roll the dice again for another corporate, place, even though he has qualifications that would get him a job really anywhere, because he's very specialized. He's got a master's in welding engineering, so it's a very specialized thing, and if somebody needs a welding engineer, you can kind of get a job wherever. But it was like, why are we rolling the dice on another corporate thing, another move, to be tied down for at least 2 years for moving expenses? You get what I'm trying to say. So we already had that thought. I started renovating a house when I was still pregnant with Audrey, trying to build capital to just do something else. We had thought of this idea of doing cabin rentals in the mountains. We love the mountains. We just feel such peace here, and we thought, well, we need to build some capital so we can pay our expenses and start a business and all the rest of it. Let's flip some homes. So we started doing that. Long story short, that blew up in our face, but we did move to the mountains, and we have been self-employed for the last 2 years on our own for the last 2 years. Like I said, the whole moving up, that's a whole nother story that just blew up. But we have been, just the two of us, the last 2 years, making it work with all the kiddos and all the chaos, adding on to, you know, to our current house to make things better for business and just our lives. And that is kind of the story in a nutshell of the last, what, 10, 15 years? Goodness, it kind of just went on and on and on. So I guess all of this to say is, if you want to start sewing, go for it. There's no right or wrong. I hope I can help you in your journey. There's plenty of other people out there sharing their journey and that can be helpful. And enjoy it for what it is. There's no pressure to do it, and it can be a great escape, very therapeutic. I have a whole video on why I sew. It's like a 2-minute little video, but it just dives about the whole thing and wraps it up in a nutshell that you can watch. If you have any questions, if you want to see any other stories for this little story time series, by all means put them down in the comments below and I will do my best to answer them. And as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to catch y'all next time.